This is Chad Otterstrom, and you're listening to the Not Snowboarding podcast.
Can we do one more? There was some weird noise.
That's my dog barked.
Oh, okay.
This is Chad Otterstrom, and you're listening to the Not Snowboarding podcast.
Yo, Duke, you're dead wrong.
Army of Darkness, that from the Bruce Campbell movie, but we were a bunch of diggers at Hood in the summer of 1998, I think it was, or 1999, or 98, and then we were the AOD crew, and then that faded off when I moved back to Breckenridge, and then we had a whole other crew, and we were like, well, let's just do it. Well, then we started the Hellcats.
That's right.
That was our Breckenridge gang, and then that was like when Wildcats was blowing up, and we're like, damn it, we can't do that. And then I remember shredding with Devin. I had a Hellcat sticker on my board. He's like, you're the Hellcats? He's like, we're the Wildcats.
Cat fight.
This is like the 90s, you know? And I went home. I'm like, guys, we can't be the Hellcats. It's not going to work. Not cool. We're not nearly as cool as the Canadians.
Welcome to episode number 43 of the Not Snowboarding podcast. I'm your host, Nate Mousson. For this chat, my buddy Paul joins me in the basement studio as we connected with AJ and Chad over Skype. Paul and Chad used to ride some of the same events back in the 90s. We discussed those days a bit, and also a varied list of topics, including camping out of a van, video production, photography, golf, the Primal Diet, turning 40, and Chad's advice to his younger self. I don't want to totally spoil it, but to quote his words, powder is the answer in the end. Those words have really stuck with me ever since we recorded this episode. Wanted to say a quick thanks to everyone that's been supporting the show by making a habit of clicking through the podcast Amazon banner ad before shopping on Amazon. If you haven't been doing this, please take 2 seconds right now and bookmark the support tab at the Not Snowboarding Podcast website. Clicking through that ad before shopping on Amazon kicks the podcast some loose commission at no cost to you. Let's jump into the episode with the legendary Chad Otterstrom.
Hello.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think it works pretty good.
Cool.
We've had some Skype challenges today. This is Nate and also a blast from the past, Paul Horning, my neighbor, and someone who has been to some competitions with you many moons ago, has joined us.
Yeah, what's up, Paul?
What's up, man? How you been?
Good.
Good to talk to you, man. It's been probably a decade or two.
Yeah. Definitely. Mount Snow or something?
Yeah, yep. Back in the Kingpin days?
Wild Duck.
Wild Duck.
I think so. I don't know. But yeah,
so
back in those days.
I was showing some of your photos to my wife, and we just jump into it, so you know we're recording already.
Right.
But before we jumped on here today, and she was like, oh my God, those dogs, are they long-haired dachshunds? You've got to ask about his dogs. So she wanted to know, one, did they ever bury themselves in the powder? And two, if they are boys or girls. I think they're boys, but I'm not sure.
They're both boys, and one of them kind of still cruises around the powder, and the other one used to, but now he's over it. But yeah, you know, it's kind of their deal. I made a board after him, the Powder Hound.
Is that with Bluebird?
Yep.
And what are their names?
Callaway and Chopper.
Where did you get those names?
Well, Callaway came from a girl I was dating, and then we got Chopper together, and then now they're both mine. But the name Chopper, I guess, was my old nickname, so we named him after that, and then I didn't name Callaway.
Gotcha. And how did you get the nickname Chopper?
They're those big old mittens. And back in high school, I guess I used to always have crappy mittens. And there's, you know, you'd be walking around with those monster mittens that the gapers wear. And so my friends started calling me Chopper because I had the crappy mittens, and it just stuck. But now apparently they're popular. Every kid has a big old pair of yellow mittens and bibs and cruises around the hill.
So you're back in style.
Apparently,
You were ahead of your time. You were a trendsetter.
25 years ahead of my time. I'm just kidding.
So
Mine were all ripped up. They were not good.
another thing that jumped out to me was I could have sworn I saw some hard boots somewhere in your Instagram feed. What's going on there?
Yeah, well, like 6 years ago, I had a foot injury and it was starting to act up. And then last June, I ran into these dudes up on Drift Peak. It's over towards Leadville. Hippie sticking, split boarding, and they had hard boots. And I kind of thought it might help my foot. And turns out it's actually almost kind of more fun than soft boots. I got them, and then we modified them so that the boots actually kind of flex. But it's this dude, he's lives in Conifer, that designed the bindings, and they use Dynafit boots. And they're technically 2 pounds less than regular setups, and they kind of tour better because you have no forward lean. You kind of walk a little smoother. But, they don't release, so if you're really going to send it and eat it, you might break your legs. But just something fun and different, Snowboarding gets stale, I guess. It's kind of fun to be able to go do your 360 on hard boots, I don't know.
For sure. Are you seeing anyone else making this transition, or is this something that was just specific to you? You're exploring this foot pain thing?
No, yeah. No, there's definitely split boarders making the transition. Like, it's more of a mountaineer type situation than freestyle. But there's a lot of people doing it. I still like to do both, I guess, If I'm just going to go out and ride something for turning, I'll go hard booting. But if I'm going to go try to get aggressive, I'll maybe go soft booting. I don't know. Just a change up in plans. But there are a lot of people doing it. It's just really expensive. I think, to get into it, I think the bindings are $900 alone, and the boots are $700. So that's all retail. So your average kid's probably not going to be doing that anytime soon.
But I guess once you have the equipment to go out and have the knowledge to go out somewhere, it doesn't really cost anything, does it?
Exactly. It's like the ocean surfing, once you get to that's the thing. It's like, what, lift tickets without a season pass are what, 125, $150. And season passes are $500 to $700, and those are the cheap ones. So it's like, if you're going to get a $2,000 season pass to Jackson Hole or a splitboard setup, what are you going to do? I don't know.
Are you going to take it to the level of Damian Sanders and maybe do one soft boot on your good foot and one hard boot on your bad foot?
Oh yeah, well, I did the Damian flip with both my hard boots, where you kind of do an iguana back flip. I call that a Damian flip. No, I'm not, but that was Willie McMillan, the dude that runs Bluebird. He told me that was 1987, legitimate Jackson Hole style. Tons of people were doing hard boot front back boot.
That's funny. And that attention to detail in your gear is something that was pointed out in your, how was it, 411?
411.
Yeah, 411 video part. Where do you think that comes from?
What do you mean detail the gear? Like how intense I get about how I change my setup every other day?
Sure.
That often?
No, but who was it? I used to ride with Blaze a lot out in Tahoe, and he was the same way. He'd change his angles every single day, and he'd be freaking out looking at his board for an hour every night. But I just always, there's always something little thing. And then when you ride a lot, I don't know. It's just, I don't know if it's just obsessive compulsive disorder, or whatever you want to call it, or if it's just something to do. I don't know. Makes snowboarding more fun just to switch it up to see what happens,
I know Paul, who's here, has, I ride with him a bunch, and he waxes his board quite a bit. And that, just riding with someone who's waxing his board, and then you always have this little competition. So I'm like, I'm going to wax my board one night. I'm going to wax my board a little bit more. So for me, that's where some of it comes from, is just friendly competition.
Well, out here you need it because there's so many flat spots on these hills.
Yeah, totally. And then once you get into waxing your board, and if you don't have a wax board, then you get bummed.
Yep.
So we wanted to, if it's cool with you, step back into the period where you moved from Minnesota out west and talk about what that transition was like. And specifically, did you make the People of Walmart calendar?
No, I didn't. I worked at Target when I was in Minnesota, actually. That was like my main career job outside of Kingpin. And then when I moved here, I guess I worked at Walmart for like a month and a half. Actually, only 2 weeks.
Is that the one in Frisco there?
Yeah, I never made the people of Walmart calendar. That's sweet, though. I did, yeah. In Frisco, I worked there for 2 weeks, and then I quit to deliver food. And then they're like, you know what? If you quit now and don't give us a 2-week notice, you'll never be able to work for Walmart again. I was like,
Oh no.
I know. I was taking a big leap right there. So,
So there's no
I'll never
future.
make it in this company.
There's no future for you in the people of Walmart calendar either, then, huh?
no,
A bummer.
could be over.
But joking aside, I mean, that was a serious commitment to go out there, and you took a job to get money, and then you're working your ass off and working your ass off at Walmart, working your ass off on the snow as well.
Yeah, no, it was actually the real job I had the first year. I worked for Walmart the second year I lived here. Real job I worked for the first year, I had 30 hours a week, 2 to 12, 3 nights a week. So that worked out super good for snowboarding for some reason. And yeah.
Is it me or was that Walmart a transition spot for a lot of people, a lot of transplants that moved out there?
Yeah, back then you could actually work at Walmart and afford to live here. Now, because of Airbnb and VRBO, you can't do it. But yeah, not that Walmart. I don't know. A lot of people worked. You'd have to like talk to those dudes. I followed out the generation of like hard-hungry homeless up in the ante. You know what I mean? That 20 years ago. I don't know where they work. Now they work. Now a lot of people actually work at like Woodward and stuff.
Yeah.
A
lot more options out there now.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I knew a girl, Dina, who had moved from somewhere, and she worked at that Walmart for a good while.
Yeah.
Just to basically pay for season passes and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's better. Working at Walmart's better than the Lyft because if you work for the resort, they kind of own you in your pass,
For sure.
And you have to watch people getting powder turns all day.
Yeah, that's not cool.
You can't pretend like you're sick. You can't call in sick and then go riding because they can track it pretty easily.
Totally.
Yeah.
So I remember I ran into you out there at I can't remember where it was, maybe Copper or something. And your crew back then was like, I want to say it was like Kendall Welton and of course Nate Dogg, and then I think it was Rob Knight.
Yep.
You had a pretty good posse back then. Are you still riding with those guys? Are they still all out there in Summit County too?
Yeah, no, we definitely had. Those are the dudes. Kendall and I rode a lot the first couple of years. Then I think the third year I lived here, Nate Dogg moved out. Nate Dogg actually lives with me, so he's a roommate of mine. He rents a room from my condo.
Okay.
And that was the crew. The first couple of years, Nick Drago's still around. Todd Franzen's still around. Nate is. But yeah, a lot of people, moved on and grew up and got jobs and wives and kids. And Brett Meyer's still out here, I guess.
Jeff is too, right? Jeff's still out there?
Jeff's still out here, yeah. He lives across the street or across the highway.
Nice.
He's still lurking.
Cool.
Yeah, there's you'd probably name 10 if I thought about it. People still lurking around. Ryan Napton's still out here.
You guys are still holding down first chair at Loveland every year, right?
Yeah, this year we might not. Last year we had to stay in the lot for 4 days, and it kind of.
Good Lord.
Was that when it was like snowing hella hard and you were camping in your van with your dogs and stuff?
Yep, totally. It's
Damn.
awesome.
How do you stay warm? How do you?
My van, I got a heater. It's mellow. It wasn't that bad.
No, but still, I mean.
No, yeah, it's just you drink beverages. I don't know. It's fun. But yeah, I think I'm hoping to be done with that just because it's not good for your health.
Drinking in general or just the 4 days camping?
Well, 4 days of camping and drinking beer, and people come by, and it's really fun, but it just gets old. And last year was Nate Dogg's 20th year, so I think he's kind of going to pull the plug maybe.
20 years?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were kind of just his entourage is why we did it.
Holy shit.
Well, that's the way it is every year with him, right? I mean, he's the first chair guy.
Yeah, he's the guy, but now, after 20 years, he's kind of might hang up the belt or whatever you're going to call it, the title.
How long does he have ever had to wait to catch a first chair? Like you said, 4 days last year, but
it's about 4 days. This is the longest you wait. It all depends on when the resort opens. They claim the opening, and then we immediately get in our cars and go lock it down. And then usually you talk to management, and they're like, "All right, if you guys are just lurking around here, you don't have to stay by the chair. We'll give it to you." And then when they open,
sick.
because they don't want us sitting by the chair because they got to be doing all their maintenance.
That's rad that they do that for you guys.
So you mentioned that you have a van, and that's something that I'm kind of infatuated with, like building out the back of my truck. Do you do? I know that from your pictures, and it looks like you do some like van adventures. What level of build out have you done to your van?
I just straight safari van. I don't really try to do anything with it. I honestly just took the seats out, put a basic bed in the back that I can put stuff underneath, and that's all I have. I didn't really want to get too advanced, just because I don't know. I just like to keep it super simple, like a van and a bed, and you go. I have a propane heater that I can put the propane tank out, and it's like RV safe, like the safest propane heater you can get, so I can heat it all day long. And then that's it. No build out. It's just more for getting out of town. And then it goes pretty off road pretty well. It's all wheel drive, but I'll go to like Red Mountain Pass. Like last April, I went to Silverton for 4 days, and I just go post up on the pass, hike around, come back, and basically it's because of my dogs. I couldn't travel with my dogs in my car and go anywhere because you got to get a hotel room with dogs and this and that. So my dogs forced me to buy a van, but they're awesome. I mean, I used to own a van before this one too, and that one blew up. But I did a whole trip on the PCH last May. That was really fun.
How long did you do the PCH?
Very fast. I went to Tahoe, hung out there for a while, and then I went to San Fran, hung out there for a while, and then went to Santa Cruz, hung out there. Those are all like 2-day trips. And then I went down south, and then I tried to pull over to a couple spots to check it out. And the whole coast just locked down, kind of, unless you know exactly where you're going. You live out there, it kind of sucks. It's just like tourists everywhere, people, and I kind of got over it. And then I just rallied to Los Angeles. And then in like a day, I just kind of wanted to do it because I always, saw it and never did it. So you don't know what it looks like. So driving it really helps. Now that that's done with, I don't think I'll ever do it again.
I think driving it's pretty rad. Like, I don't know about like hiking around and camping. Like I felt like I've done it once from like, LA to Portland. Yeah. And I was always like hyped to drive it, but I think maybe getting away from people would be pretty tough because it was super busy, like midweek, almost all the way through.
Oh, yeah. You got to be like on a Wednesday morning to get anything entertaining. But it's fun, but the van's good too, like for splitboarding, because a lot of splitboarding is you get up at, 3, 4 in the morning and you got to start hiking a trail. And to just sleep at the trailhead and be able to wake up and have your gear right there and kill that hour or two getting there is always awesome.
Well, please don't tell my wife, and hopefully she's not listening to this episode, that you can do a build out for very little money, because I was planning on getting a little bit more elaborate, and now you're dashing my hopes. Like I don't need to. I could just go out there super basic.
And we were talking about that the other day. We went surfing this past weekend. We were talking. We've both been looking at slide-in truck campers that we can drive onto the beach and surf out of and stuff like that. And I was telling Nate, I was like, man, you should check out Chad's van. He's just got a basic Safari. And we have another friend out in Tahoe who just got this, I think it was like a Volkswagen van or something, and fully gutted it and outfitted it. He's got a really rad setup. And for me, I think I'd go more the route of you of just keeping it basic, because then you can change things around if you need to. It seems like once you build the van out, you're kind of stuck with what you have for the most part.
Yeah. And mine also has 209,000 miles on it. I didn't want to invest too much in throwing in there,
Right.
In case it just goes and all of a sudden I'm like, sweet, I got all this stuff in there.
You have another.
I think you can do the whole solar thing pretty cheap.
Yeah.
And you just drill holes in the ceiling and then you put a little solar panel in there and then run electric heat. And that's pretty, I'm not that advanced, so I didn't do that. But, I don't know. The Astrovan is definitely the way to go, I think, as far as that goes, because you can get all-wheel drive. Astro Safari, all-wheel drive, and then you can mine's got a 3-inch lift on it and put big tires and you're going anywhere. Where VWs are okay, but they're not really all-wheel drive, especially for winter,
And they're notorious for maintenance.
Yeah.
So you have another interesting vehicle too, don't you? Have an El Camino?
I used to. I sold that, and then I bought the van. I had
Oh,
my original goal was to get an El Camino and put a snowmobile in the back of it, kind of roll that style. But then the El Camino I got was like looked too nice, so I never really wanted to ruin it by putting a snowmobile in the back. And so then I had storage. I had it stored in the winters, and then I lost that storage because somebody sold the property, and so I was leaving it in my lot all winter, and it was getting ruined. So I sold it. It was all image, just looking cool on the road is basically all I think. It was really fun to drive, but definitely not.
it's such a unique car, and it's funny, even on the truck camper topic, I was doing deep internet forum research, and I saw a guy who had built a custom truck camper on an El Camino at one point.
No, they're nice. You just pull up and you got a perfectly flat camping spot everywhere you go.
So you also use something when you're camping that I've been a huge fan of for a long time. It's a bivy sack. And
Yep.
it's like the smallest tent in the world. It's the same size as your sleeping bag. Why don't more people use those? Why aren't they more popular?
I have no idea. I used them to hike mountains and sleep at the top of them, like for lightweight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. You just did that like a little like winter pad and a sleeping bag, and you can shred anywhere. But yeah, it's crazy how quick they are, and it's like yeah. I have no idea why no more people use them, especially for like hiking and camping, because it's quick and easy.
And I'm lazy too. You don't have to set up a tent that way. It's almost the same amount of effort as getting your sleeping bag out of your pack.
Right? Yeah, I guess. I mean, as long as you can keep all your stuff waterproof outside of the bivy sack, that's all you need.
Hey, what do you think about Gulliver tents? The tiny
Or
tents.
I don't know about them.
They're like just over your head. They'd be not useful in winter.
Yeah.
Have you seen those?
I have not.
Are they just like awnings?
Yeah, but I guess just like for, I don't know, like your head, essentially. And then he's like sleep in a sleeping bag.
So it's a head
Yeah, no.
tent?
I've never even seen those.
I think it was a joke. I think it was like it was like this. It called a Gulliver tent, tiny tent.
I did actually. Now that we're online, I won a $700 North Face tent that I've been trying to sell for $500. So if anybody wants it, $450.
There you go.
What's the best way to contact you to get the tent deal going?
Get the tent? I have no idea. On Skype, I guess.
Or direct
Facebook.
message you? Facebook? Okay.
No, yeah, I don't need a $700 tent.
So on all these trips that you've been doing recently, you've been taking more photos. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, last couple of years I've been taking a lot, and that's kind of where my life. I mean, not really. Just I like to hike mountains to take photos. I guess dragging my gear. I just need to get a lighter setup. But that's what I've been doing a lot. Actually, I worked for Woodward half this summer as their photographer. Now I'm going out to Tahoe next week to go be their photographer for a week. When somebody asks you, what do you do? What do you say? What do? I take care of my dogs. For a profession, I'm attempting, I'm a part-time photographer, part-time snowboarder, part-time snowboard judge, part-time snowboard coach. I live in Breckenridge is what I do. I'm a snowboarder. When I was a pro snowboarder back in the day, people were like, what are you going to do when you're done snowboarding? You're like, I'm like, duh. You're like, I'm going to snowboard. That's the best answer.
And that's honestly what I've always liked about you, Chad, is you've always been at least to me, it seems like you've always been really true to yourself and to snowboarding, and you've never changed your passions. I mean, for as long as I've known you and known of you, you seem to really be just very pure to snowboarding. That's what I've always liked about you.
Thank you. I mean, I feel lucky that I have that, like I know a lot of people that don't have passions, I guess, and they're searching for them, and I feel that would not be fun.
I feel like a lot of people kind of go down the wrong path in life because they don't have certain passions that a lot of us have that keep us from going into these dark places that we see a lot of our friends go to. Yep. Totally. Yeah.
Or just
and especially living in Breckenridge, it's like people are falling off left and right, They're like, all of a sudden you're 40 and you only got 5 friends left in town. I guess that's a lot of friends either way, but people move here to snowboard and they keep, it's very transient. I don't know. You're right, for sure. Don't find their passion. It's a rough one.
We put up a post on the podcast Facebook group, and some listeners threw out some questions. We just put it up this afternoon. Our buddy, I think we all know Josh Circle, wants to know if you could give us the dirt on Connor Manning. I don't know who Connor Manning is.
I don't know. There's no dirt. He moved out here this year. I barely shredded with him. He's a judge, and he moved in with his girlfriend out here this winter, and there is no dirt. You see him out front of Brooklyn's pool hall every once in a while at about 1 a.m. But yeah, sorry. Maybe next time I'll give some dirt.
Now, is he judging some of the same events that you judge?
Yeah, he's a professional judge. He's fully certified. He judges X Games, do tour. I think he's trying to do like the Olympics maybe. I'm not sure.
So does Drago judge with you as well? Isn't he doing some judging?
He'll judge some local contests here and there.
Okay.
I've never actually judged. Well, maybe I've judged one contest with him.
Now, when you come out to Seven Springs every year, is that to judge, or are you coaching, or what are you doing at the Free Flow Tour?
I am coaching. I worked for Stratton Mountain School the last couple of years.
Nice.
And they have their kids move out to Summit County, and then I showed up with them every once in a while, and then I travel to the contest with them and kind of their chaperone / snowboard waxer / advice giver, whatever you want to call it. And it's an awesome time. All the kids are, upper age teenagers, so they're really fun to work with.
That's cool.
How did you get into coaching? Was that just a natural progression of your excitement for snowboarding and sharing it with others, or was it more formalized?
I don't know. Yeah, no. When I was a kid, when I was like in 9th or 10th grade, I mowed a bunch of lawns to go out to Mount Hood, and that was like the early 90s. And I went out there, and there was like Peter Line, Blaze, Johnny B, Don Zabo, like you name it. There's like the biggest names in snowboarding. We're all coaches. And that was then I went home to Minnesota and I bought like Hard Hung and the Homeless, and half the coaches were in the movie. So I was like tripping. And then I always went to Hood for, like the rest of my life. I think I've been there every year, but one since then. So I'd always go out there and I'd coach a couple sessions just to I don't know. I always thought it was cool to be able to coach the kids, even when you're doing all right. And then, so that was fun. And then now I do it because I need a job. But I think it's just a really good influence because a lot of coaches come from PSIA or A, whatever you want to call it. They're like ski instructors, you know what I mean? And then they get into freestyle coaching and they don't really get it. So, I don't know. I feel it's important to pass along to the kids.
Have you ever had a kid that it was like, dude, snowboarding isn't for you?
Quit now, kid.
No. Well, then there's always other avenues like filming and you know what I mean? That's where because with snowboard coaching, most snowboard coaches think the end all is getting a gold medal in the Olympics. And that's like the beginning of it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like the Super Bowl and end all of snowboarding is free riding, where you don't know what's around the next corner and this and that. And, and most snowboard coaches are just pushing their kids and they just see them just competition, I don't know.
So have you ever
I think there's so many different avenues. Like, that would be like a bad thing to be like, oh, you got to win the biggest contest or whatever that might be. There's so many different avenues. Like, a kid might be super creative and like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I like doing contests, but I like doing something else more, like free riding or like split boarding and shooting photos more, or like hitting handrails more. And I kind of want to be as good as I can doing that. So I don't know. I think that's like, you're going to pigeonhole kids and they probably might get bummed out eventually if you're like, you got to do this contest, do the best you can do.
No, it's a whole hard deal because a lot of the parents that are paying the money for the kids to come out, what they see is results,
Right.
And you can't just be like, well, this kid, like, he went and had the best powder day of his life at Vail, and he was walking, he was on in the clouds for the next 2 weeks, you know what I mean? Thinking about that. And then some of them see it and some of them or just like, whatever, cool. That's great that he had a good time. I just want results. So it's a 50-50 game you're playing always. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you think coach is like the word coach is a bad term for like what? Yeah.
Or, style counselor or whatever.
Style. I like that one.
Yeah. I like those better. Coach always reminded me of the dudes at the FIS contest with ski boots at the top of the half pipe.
Yep.
Being gnarly and yelling, and that's why I see like ski racing, especially at Mount Hood is where I see the most ski racing, and I like work at Boreal in the winter, and they have like ski racers come at night, and sometimes they're like so overly intense. Like I don't even get it. Like I don't understand how you can be that intense, like going skiing or snowboarding. Like I don't know. I almost feel bad for the kids that are involved.
Yeah, no, it's, I'm there with you. I mean, I constantly struggle with even doing it as a job because of it, It's just like, what are we doing?
So not to totally backtrack, but getting back to some of your backcountry missions and kind of your out of resort riding, you seem to do a lot of that alone. I see a lot of your camping photos and little short video clips of some night riding and some hiking and camping. Do you do a lot of that solo?
Yep.
And is that because you have a hard time finding anybody else is committed, or do you enjoy kind of being out there by yourself?
I enjoy being by myself, and both. I have like a few friends, like Jake Black. He's one of my good friends that lives around here that I trust and go out with a lot. And then you have a lot of friends that are like, come out, bro, I want to go out. And like, you call them the night before, they're like, what do you think the snow's going to be like? And you're like, it doesn't matter, we're going. And you know what I mean? You're just like, I just don't even want to talk about it. Where I'm going, whether it's good or bad. But I do a lot of the lone missions. I've also done a lot. So it's not like, it's definitely unsafe. They say not to do it.
What's the gnarliest thing you've run into camping and out mountaineering, hiking around, and snowboarding by yourself?
Oh, like every time I go to sleep around Loveland Pass or around the tunnel, I get like right before it gets dark, coyotes like start howling all around me.
Wow.
I always like sleep with a knife on me. I'm like, all right, one of these days I'm going to like take on like 10 coyotes or something. I don't know. But, so I don't bring my dogs with me, to say the least, anymore, camping up at high altitude like that. But
yeah,
I don't know. Like, I think about it like if you're walking through the woods at night, how like aware of everything around you are, but you can't see anything. Like you kind of want to have that feeling when you're out there by yourself. And I like the feeling of like when it's dumping really, really, really hard and you're kind of far, so you can't go too far on a split board. You can go pretty far in a snowmobile. And you get that feeling like you're underwater almost, but you're out in the mountains. It's kind of cool.
Wow.
When you
Nothing really gnarly, I guess. A lot of the stuff I do is literally, and then I try to tell my friends where I'm going. Usually when I go, I'm like, I'll text them when I get out.
When you said that you have one friend that you trust, does that mean that you trust his backcountry skill, or what does that mean?
Oh, I trust him that he's not going to do anything sketchy. He's always very cautious about it. Every time I go out, you go out with people, and I've gone out with people, and they go drop in on stuff that you're just like, dude, don't go there. And they're like, but I just have friends that are cautious, and I know he's not going to go do it. Well, you never know, but they're just not going to go do stupid shit.
Have you gone through official like backcountry training and super into like analyzing the snowpack and snow crystals and all of that?
I've done my Avi 1. I got my wilderness first responder last summer certification, and I have been donking around these mountains for 21 years, I guess, like 3 to 4 times a week. But I'm not the best at like analyzing layers and crystals because I basically is always kind of yes or no, and especially in Colorado, you're swimming with sharks everywhere you go.
Yeah. So
you got to always kind of ride super tame stuff until like April and May when the snowpack really sets in. Then you can kind of start riding steeper stuff. But as far as that goes now, it's like most experience in just Avi 1, and then my woofer is more for if I get hurt or other people get hurt around me.
Gotcha. You mentioned riding Colorado and you live in Colorado. You've traveled all over the world snowboarding. Is Colorado the best place in your opinion?
Oh, definitely not. But it's definitely my best place to live. I love it here. But I mean, I really think like, you know, the United States, I would say, you know, there's like, they have their goods and everything has its ups and downs. I think like Utah is probably one of the best, you know. Pacific Northwest has some amazing terrain, you know, when you get it good. Tahoe is really, really, really good when you get it good. The what is it, the coastal, whatever, maritime snowpack is better for not hitting rocks and, you know, it holds on steeper stuff. And then you get to Utah and it's a little bit of Colorado and Tahoe. And you get to Colorado and then it's just kind of like sketchy everywhere.
That sounds like, exactly like what I would say if I lived somewhere where it was really good so nobody else went there.
Don't come here. It's terrible.
No, yeah, the weed's legal here now. It's gotten out of control. It's not good. There's so many people moving here. I call them trimmigrants, weed refugees. You know, you're just like, dude, you really moved here because you saw this place on CNN? Like, no. But, no, yeah, I mean, it's good here. The thing is about here is like I said, you're swimming with sharks. We treaded lightly for a lot of years, you know what I mean? And now that backcountry skiing and snowboarding has gotten really popular, people are just freaking, there's anthills everywhere. It's like nuts. You go to Grays and Torreys in May and it's like an anthill going up when you're walking around it, middle of winter, you know? 100 cars at 5 a.m. It's nuts.
Jeez.
But whatever.
Have you had any near misses with avalanches?
Trying to think. Not really, no. Been around them, but not around here, you know. It's like I've had friends, obviously. The one where Joe Timlin died and 5 dudes on Loveland ski area. I was hanging out with them the night before, and then I remember I was out in Tahoe then 2 days before that, so I was really tired that morning, and I woke up and I never went out. I don't think I would have gone with him that day, but I definitely would have been hanging out with him that morning. So that's kind of a feeling like a ghost, because I remember that afternoon I was working downtown and I was there. I was like, 5 people died on Loveland Pass, and I was like, oh my god! And then it ended up being 5 people I knew, or not. I only knew one of them. But
was that over on the? Was that over on the Professor, or was that actually at the pass?
Oh no, it was the sheep. It was on the other side. It was Loveland ski area side.
Oh, okay.
It was like a gully on that first big switchback, right where you hitchhike, and then it's like there's that switchback.
Yeah.
They were just like literally 5 minutes off the road. But, yeah, so I guess that would be a near miss, but otherwise, no, not really.
So your favorite place you've ridden and the place you're itching to get back to the most?
I don't know. It'd be fun to go back. I always like going to Canada. Interior Canada is super fun. Interior BC. I like Alaska. I went to India in 2008.
Whoa, like Kashmir?
There. Yeah, I went to Kashmir.
Oh, sick.
Was that with the Foursquare team?
No, they went to Dubai.
Okay.
I went with Steve Fisher, Ryan Thompson, James Frederick, Eric Bergery, Jen Shrowski, and then we did a Transworld story there. But what I want to do is I want to go to like the Karakoram range and go to the Himalayas and kind of just go straight around there and look around there, just for fun. But there's no real place I'm itching to get back to. I'm itching for next season right now, basically.
What was snowboarding in Kashmir like?
It's like here. It's like if you dug a hole here, you got Kashmir. Where we were is called Gulmarg, and there's just like a couple 14,000 foot peaks over there, and you could see a 24,000 foot peak from where we were snowboarding, which is kind of cool.
Wow.
But yeah, it's, you're 13, 14 years. It's a lot like Colorado. It's like if you dug a hole here and everybody, all of a sudden you're eating chicken tikka masala and everybody's speaking a different language. It was cool. Definitely. The only thing that sucked about it was, when you're going to the complete opposite side of the world, your jet lag's super gnarly. The food's gnarly. It's really harsh on your body just dealing with all that. But
I can imagine. Like, would you get off the plane and like next day, like, all right, let's go snowboarding. Let's hike some shit.
It was like 48 hours of travel from here to the time where we got to our hotel room there.
Wow. Gnarly.
It was fun though. It definitely, I'd love to go back. Like you leave there, you'd be like, I'm not going to come back because it was such work. And then a couple years later, you're like, I got to go back.
That's such a unique play, or maybe not unique, but a lot of people, I've known a couple people that have gone snowboarding there, but I'd never think about snowboarding there or what it could be like.
Yeah, no, it's cool. It's all the Himalayas, southern Himalayas.
So kind of jumping around a little bit and jumping back to the listener questions, my buddy Corey Schmidt, a.k.a. Handsome Corey, wants to know where your favorite cheeseburger is.
Empire Burger in Breckenridge, and I'm trying to work out a deal so I can just get free food there all the time.
Why are they the
other
best?
Place, Flipside Burger, opened up, and I kind of like them a little better, but now I'm not. It's Empire Burger in Breckenridge is definitely not the best.
Is this the best fuel for CrossFit, or why is it so good?
I don't know. It's like I actually have been on a diet for the last 2 months. I haven't been eating them at all. But it's like, it's like those things. It's just tourist food. You know what I mean? Like I always talk shit because it's like you go to Breckenridge and they're selling $18 cheeseburgers and they sell like 5,000 of them a day, or I don't know how many they sell. So you're like, whoa! You're like, come on, guys, freaking! And it's just like spam. So it's just like, you get your $150 lift ticket, your $20 cheeseburger, your whatever. But basically there's, it's just cheeseburger restaurants in Breckenridge. That's all you have. You eat cheeseburgers, Mexican food, and pizza.
So are you on that 40-year-old diet? You just turned 40, right?
I'm on a primal diet where I eat all hunting and gathering food, or eat like all vegetarian fed meat and all vegetables. And
that's kind of what I've been doing. You just turned 40 as well, right?
I did.
2 weeks ago or something?
A week ago.
A week ago. Happy late birthday.
Yeah. July 11th, I think.
Yeah. Nice. Happy birthday.
Yeah. Thank you. You 40?
I just turned 40 on Tuesday.
Good work.
Yep.
Did you celebrate like Paul by going roller skating in a leotard?
Hey, it was a onesie. It wasn't a leotard.
It was a leotard.
I went to Mexican food and ate a bunch of Mexican food and I went to sleep.
That's probably what I should have done.
Jeremy Jones, actually, the Gibber one, he turned 40. Him and JP and myself and probably a couple other people in our generation, maybe Bjorn, all turned 40 this year. And he did on January 40 kickflips, but apparently he sprained his ankle and it didn't work out for him. But that would have been really cool to do. 40 of something. Maybe I'll do 41 of something. You do 41 of something next year.
Yeah, I actually meant to get 40 walls and like a bowl or something, but I actually totally forgot about it when we were down at the beach last week.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in this primal diet. Is part of the goal to get into like a fat burning state, something akin to ketosis?
Nope, I 100% because I want to beat skiers. Like,
what do you mean? Like,
I love it.
On the skin track.
I love it.
After eating all those Empire burgers, I gained a lot of weight, and same with the hard boots and everything. Because I really like I want to be able to go up the mountain fast hiking, And I was lose 20 pounds. That's a 20-pound backpack, and then get a little muscle. I'll be going like twice as fast. And skiers like AT skiers especially McFitties are faster than snowboarders, and I split boarding uphill. And I was like, I just need to increase my speed so I can get more snowboarding in, I guess, split boarding. Because chairlifts really hurt my feelings. I don't really like riding them anymore after I've got into split boarding. I do if it's like a good POW day, but otherwise I'd just rather not hang out with a bunch of tourists with REI gear on, or not even Sports Authority gear, but now they can't even do that anymore because that's out of business.
Hey, and correct me if I'm I'm sorry, I was going to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're also a purebred snowboarder. You've never skied, right?
No, I skied up until like 1986. In Minnesota, we were all skiers, and then my brother Andy, I was still pretty young. What was I? 10 years old then. My brother Andy was a skateboarder. They were like Tony Hawk days, had the haircut over your eye. And we were skiers in the winter and they were skaters. And then snowboarding came out. We saw it on the hill. We're like, we got to do that. So we started, through him skateboarding, we started snowboarding.
Nice.
But yeah, no, I definitely, I was a skier for a good 4 or 5 years growing up when at my very young age,
Yeah.
But, definitely got into snowboarding immediately and never went back.
I wanted to touch on a couple more viewer questions. So Jeff Holtz, the athlete, wanted to ask, when are you going to upload some of your old snowboard movies to YouTube or Vimeo so people that got into snowboarding after those movies were released can see them? And I think I don't think he means the role model movies. I think he made it seem like he had a huge collection of old snowboard movies. Is that true?
I do, yeah. I got a hard drive full of every single movie available almost. I just don't.
Damn.
I have almost everyone. I mean, JP Walker was out here last week, and he is more of a video nerd than me. And we were talking, and his brain was insane, what he knew about. And I would say a trick, and he was on it, or a video. But I have them all. I just, out of respect, I don't put them online. Like Mac Dog, he was always super protective of his videos were his artwork and his business, and so I'm not going to take somebody else's video and put it online. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's fair. Do you have Bike Car Movie by any chance?
No, that's kind of the Northeast one.
What's up?
The Northwest one with Louie and Scotty.
Yeah, I've been trying to find I had a copy of that. I've been trying so hard to find a copy of that because I just loved it so much. It was so unique to me. It's not even a snowboard movie, really.
No, they got in a car or bike car and biked up the hood or something.
Yeah, they biked all around the Northwest. They went. I think they did 900 miles.
Oh wow!
In a month, 2 months, 3 months, some crazy amount or some amount of time, whatever. And they went snowboarding, and I was just I always thought that was really rad. I mean, it's not even
yeah,
the snowboarding's not that important. It's just the idea of that adventure.
No, yeah, those dudes are always doing cool stuff like that. I don't know, all the Northwesterners, like Scotty when he biked to New York City and then became a postal or a bike messenger for 2 weeks, and then his bike got stolen, so he pulled his credit card out of his sock and flew home. No way. So yeah, they always did cool stuff.
It sounds like AJ wants to access your hard drive on a rental basis. Maybe we could set something up.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you have to fly to Colorado.
Yeah, if you come through, you can come and download them. Go get a zip drive from Walmart. So Scotty Stevens and all those dudes, Joe Sexton and Videographs dudes all came out last week for a Woodward session, and I gave them all the videos. They were pretty hyped, but they were still JP was calling me out on the ones they didn't have, and I was like, shit. You're right, I don't have those.
So when can we expect the next AOD movie to drop?
It already came out. It was technically as professional conditions. It's on my Facebook page.
Nice. I'll have to check it out.
It would be AOD 5.
Nice.
AOD 4 was technically Keep Talking. And then AOD 5 is professional conditions. I don't claim it anymore because the OG crew is not in it,
Yeah.
And what does AOD stand for?
Army of Darkness. That from the Bruce Campbell movie, but we were a bunch of diggers at Hood in the summer of 1998, I think it was, or 1999, or 98, and then we were the AOD crew, and then that faded off when I moved back to Breckenridge, and then we had a whole other crew, and we were like, well, let's just do it. Well, then we started Hellcats.
That's right.
That was our gang. That was our Breckenridge gang, and then that was when Wildcats was blowing up, and we're like, damn it, we can't do that. And then I remember shredding with Devin. I had a Hellcat sticker on my board, and he's like, "You're the Hellcats?" He's like, "We're the Wildcats."
Cat fight.
This is the 90s, And I was like, I went home. I'm like, guys, we can't be the Hellcats. It's not going to work. It's not that cool. We're not nearly as cool as the Canadians. So then we went to AOD, and then that just kind of stuck. And then I had a camera that whole year filming, and then we had enough footage for a movie. So we made a movie.
Was there a chainsaw involved in the naming of the AOD crew at any point? I'm picturing someone standing on top of a half pipe with a chainsaw.
No, that would be good, but we just used some clips of the movie at the intro of the movie.
AOD 7, just saying.
We did have one of my friends, James Frederick, used to always hit trees, and we called him Chainsaw. Every jump he did, he'd go flying through branches on accident.
So are you currently riding? You're currently riding a Bluebird board, right?
I am, yeah. I just put my order in 2 days. Well, last week, but Willie said let me know by Tuesday, so it probably went in last Tuesday.
So I rode one of the tuck boards. I think it was not this past season, but the season before that, and I loved it. And come to find out, my first board sponsor ever was Kingpin that you were on, and that's how I met you. But come to find out, Marty was the board engineer that designed that board I was riding 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, through Smoking, and Marty lives down in Albuquerque now.
Yeah, we're part of his custom cult thing, the little board thing he's got going now.
Right on, yeah. Yeah. I talked to him maybe a year ago.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Smoking Jay. He did all the tooling for Smoking Jay's whatever he does out in Reno. Yeah.
That's right.
So
yep. Those are good. I like smoking snowboards. That's where they're made. This year, I don't think they're going to be made of smoking, but whatever.
yeah, Bluebird, I went to their site just recently and they do something interesting. They just shut down for summer.
Yeah.
It seems like a fun group of dudes, man. Seems like a good crew of people who are in it for the right reasons, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think Willie and Lance started it, and then Willie just took over, and it's just the whole Jackson Hole scene. And I got into it through Drago. I was just like, yo, those guys are rad, and then like, yeah, we're up, blah blah blah. They're all cool, just shredding for life, And them and dudes like Mikey, running and holding, and they're just like. They're keeping it straight,
For sure.
And that's I feel like that's just from the generation they came from too, Like, I live in Breckenridge, which is like the freaking Red Bull donkey spam town of the world, And it's just like, what is going on up on the hill half the day? Like these contests and everybody's all serious and it's just, there's so much money involved and it's just doesn't even seem like snowboarding anymore. But
yeah.
There's a rumor about you or maybe Drago making a certain drunk dial to make that Bluebird connection. Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, no, we were at Maori's, the old restaurant I owned, and there was not a drunk dial, but I swear I was like, Drago, you should put me on the team. Get me on the team. He's like, hell yeah. And then he called Willie and he's like, yep, you're on the team. So
well, you were on
drunk dial.
That's all it took.
Gotcha.
You were on
from what I remember. That was in 2002, I think. So that's 14 years ago.
Right.
But you were on Silence with those dudes too, right?
I was on Silence in 1996. Well, right after Kingpin, I got on Silence.
Right.
And Kingpin went under. And then that was for 2 years, I think. And then from Silence, they pulled the plug on everybody. So Blaze and Scotty and Kendall and Mikey and Mitch and Risto and all of us got on and then Blaze was the head of it all. The mastermind of M3 after Silence.
All right, yeah.
What about the 2-year curse? Have you broken the 2-year curse?
Yeah, Bluebird, I'm killing it.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it. But the 2-year curse of getting a good paycheck is definitely not there. But yeah.
It just goes back to something.
I'm 40, what am I supposed to expect?
Well, you get to snowboard, and that's.
It's like, don't put me on the team and give me a paycheck or you'll be out of business in 2 years, like guarantee you.
Throw that on your resume.
No, I don't know. Yeah, it was, Silence 2 years, M3, maybe 3.
I wanted to touch on a couple more questions real quick. I remember you mentioned Keep Talking. So Brendan Barry, who's a Colorado filmmaker, wanted to hear some good Keep Talking stories. He also wanted any Lucas Magoon or Cecilia stories.
Lucas Magoon. Yeah, no, he wasn't even supposed to be in the movie. He just lived here for the season, and I know he's filming with Tech9, and I know I don't know if it's stress Cole out or not when he was making the Tech9 movie, but I was like, whatever, the dude lives here, just call him up and tell him to come film with us. So he ended up getting a part. We didn't even have plans to put him in the movie. A couple other dudes, we didn't have plans to put in the movie. They were just hanging out, and all of a sudden you're like, damn, dudes like Nick Dirks, you're like, you got a full part, bud. And I was sick. But Lucas Magoon stories, I don't know. It was really cool to have Lucas Magoon live here that year, though, because he lived 5 miles out in the woods in Breckenridge, which was really odd. I think he was dating Gabby or something. But, that whole year stressed me out because I was the head producer and had to film a whole part. So it was all kind of a blur to me. And I was kind of just pissed off all year because, it was just work, 24 hours a day for six months. And that's why I didn't make a part 2 because I was like, screw this, I'm going snowboarding. And the next year I spent all my spare time either filming other people or editing or making connections. So it was fun to do, but I don't think it was worth it to do it year after year after year after year. Especially, I could have done it as a producer, but not as a writer and producer.
Yeah, that's a lot of roles to take on to try to a lot of those dudes have focus on just that one part of like trying to ride, and that's that can be pretty hard. That's like super gnarly to have something substantial, let alone, I'm trying to raise funds and get everything going and filming, and it seems pretty crazy.
And then all of a sudden Transworld sponsors it, and then there's hype all over the place, and then you're like halfway through the year, you've been hurt all year, and you're like, holy shit, this is not cool. And then just stress and snowboarding didn't really work out. But Cecilia's the bar, there's been plenty of stories there. Yeah. I don't want to get into that, I guess.
You don't have to incriminate anyone.
No, it's good. I would be incriminating myself.
Well, that's okay.
I'll tell Brendan to hit you up.
Yeah.
Personally and ask.
No, it was a fun thing to do. I've always made snowboard movies, but at a fun level. When you get to the fourth phase level, that's when your brain explodes. And I don't think I want to do that.
What are your thoughts on USADA and their stringent drug regulation policies?
I think it's great. I know I got busted because I don't take it anymore, and I haven't taken it for a long time, but I was using Ritalin back in the day as a prescribed drug because I was in high school. They said I didn't pay attention, but really I was probably just thinking about snowboarding. And that went down. And I mean, if you want to get involved in that kind of competition, I feel like it, that performance enhancing drugs should not be allowed. But, But
is Ritalin a performance enhancing drug?
It's questionable. I don't know. It definitely makes you focus,
Okay.
I don't know I don't exactly know. Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, like legal weed and whatever, but, it's just, I obviously like my dad, I remember my dad was like freaking out and everybody's calling. At that time in snowboarding, I was riding for Forum, and I could have cared less. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, cool. Screw you guys. Kick me out for life. Ask me if I care if I want to do another contest ever again. You know what I mean? But everybody else, like I rode for Breckenridge at the time, and little did I know they really actually cared about contests. And I was more of into video parts where, you know what I mean? Where I don't know. It's just, but that whole scene, and now they use Adderall just to make it not sound bad, but it's the exact same thing. And it's just weird. It's basically, I don't know. It's interesting now because I don't use Ritalin anymore, and I haven't used it for a long time. And I'm at 40 years old. I'm a better snowboarder than I've ever been in my entire life, by far, and a better skateboarder. So who's to say it's the performance enhancing drug? I have no idea, or if that was holding me back, to be honest. Because when you take it, you have lots of highs and lows. So, but as far as USADA goes, I mean, I'm not even a fan of the Olympics, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's just, you're going to go down the chain. It's very political, and you're talking Trump and Hillary then, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember there was like a skeleton racer, like you lay down your stomach and like the loose tracks, and he got banned from an Olympics because he was taking Propecia for like male baldness, and I guess like the hormone in it or whatever was considered like like a banned substance.
Yeah.
And he was like top in the world, and he missed out on his opportunity to, maybe get an Olympic medal or whatever.
Nate's sitting here laughing at me.
Paul's very bald.
Why?
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't want to cause any rumors, but I just heard of a foreign half pipe rider, one of the best in the world, is not going to be able to go to the next Olympics because he was smoking weed.
What?
Because you get a 2 ban if you get caught smoking weed, is what I heard. But I heard also, but that's in a different country, so they might have different rules because, who knows?
I thought all the dudes were smoking weed. They were riding snowboarding, isn't that? And
that's
all
what's
the
funny, because I live in Breckenridge. I live on Airport Road, the highest road in the country, and I don't smoke weed. Interestingly enough, yeah.
So there are certain questions that are kind of recurring questions that we like to ask the podcast guests. And one of them, do you surf at all? I don't know if we really touched on that.
I try to, but I don't know.
Okay. Well, that's kind of what I do too, is I try to.
You can say photography, Nate.
Yeah.
I've surfed 20 years actually, but I haven't, it's like playing guitar once a year for 20 years. You're not going to get good at it.
Right. So out of all of your favorite passions, snowboarding, skateboarding, photography, videography, and we'll just throw surfing in there. And I think I know the way you're going to answer this, but if you could only do one for the rest of your life, which one would it be and why?
Well, if I could snowboard for the rest of my life, I'd do that. But probably photography, because you can kind of do that, I guess, without having to be, you can get old and do it.
Lower impact.
Yeah. It's kind of why like people say they surf, because it's pretty low impact.
Yeah. Yes and no. You can definitely get your ass kicked out there.
Exactly. Depending on how you do it, right?
And where you do it.
Same with snowboarding, I guess. You can go ride groomers at Vail. It's going to be less impact than surfing, I guess.
For sure.
So,
What
I don't know. Yeah.
What are some of the challenges in, scaling a photography business?
There's a lot of people doing it now, I guess, is one. And action sports is pretty dead. Well, not dead, but you just have to go through different avenues. Like, I have to work for Woodward now as their, photographer for the summer. When the pros come in, you take pictures of them instead of, trying to sell photos to magazines type stuff. Because it's with online, like Instagram, you have 100,000 followers. A magazine sells 25,000 magazines. It's like, what's worth more?
Right.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But I'm trying to get into a little more real estate and architectural photographer around here now, because Colorado's getting blown up and stuff's being built everywhere. And just kind of doing that for fun, just to keep that as a separate side.
Another recurring podcast question that we ask, and it's kind of deep and introspective, is if you could meet your 18-year-old self right now, your 40-year-old self, and go back and chat with him, what would you tell him?
I would tell him every time. I don't know. Yeah, I was just about to say tell him when he got hurt and not to do that. But then
I wish I could do that every time.
Life, you know what I mean?
Avoid the flat landings.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Transition. Catch the tranny. I don't know. Save your money. But you do that too. But as advice, I don't know. Be like, I had a good time, so yeah, I wouldn't say anything. Be like, I'd tell my 18-year-old self, freaking, you have a good time.
Keep going.
Yeah. I don't know.
Do you?
That's pretty good advice.
Yeah.
AJ, did we have any other listener questions that I missed by chance?
We did. So Sam Jorgensen, he wanted to know your best / worst, I guess it depends on your perspective, story about Matt Peterson.
Oh, Peter, man. He's awesome. He's actually you guys obviously probably know him. You're working at Boreal. He's the marketing guy there.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have a good story of him? I mean, there's tons of them. Yeah, I traveled the world with Peterson for a couple of years, I remember one time we were in Europe and we were like, let's go to Biarritz or let's go to Prague or something. We're in Amsterdam, we have a week to travel Europe, and we just stayed in Amsterdam for a whole week. And then it was pretty cool. You rent bikes and cruise around. We went to Bergen, Norway one time, and I remember he came back and he woke up in the bushes in his socks, I think, at 2 a.m, and some cop brought him home, and somehow he found his shoes the next day. But for no reason. We weren't even really partying that crazy. He just got lost and had to sleep in the bushes in Bergen, Norway. You know what I mean? Because you get there and you have jet lag, and then all of a sudden you're out and it's 2 a.m, and you're not really partying, but you just don't know how to get back to your hotel. You're just lost in the city and stuff like that. And then trying to think, he's a sleepwalker. Peterson, we lived up on Moonstone. I remember one morning he woke up a half mile from our house in the woods, and I don't know. Yeah, he lived with me for 6 years, but he's one of my good friends too, Shredden. Still, he was a Wild Mountain Crew back in the day. I've been snowboarding with him since 10th grade, early 90s.
Oh, whoa, no way.
Yeah, I'll be shredding with him next week or hanging out with him because I'm going to Tahoe.
Yeah.
He lives in Tahoe now. Yeah. He's one of the crew that's still around, the originals, still shreds.
Yeah, we have a cool crew at Boreal. It's cool to have people like that involved. Woodward Boreal,
Yeah. Yeah, he's a good dude. I'm stoked that he works there. He keeps that place, the spirit alive there, I think.
My last question as we start to wind down here is how many times a week do you get to the golf course?
I don't. I broke my wrist 3 to 4 years ago. I broke it in high school, actually, but I got my scaphoid fixed finally because you can kind of go with it rebroken. 4 years ago, and my wrists don't work anymore for golfing. It hurts too much. So I haven't golfed for 4 years, but at the same time, I've saved a lot of money by not golfing. So.
What was the average green for you in your area?
Breckenridge is like too much, I think it's $100 to $150 for 18 holes.
Yeah.
Whoa, it's like a lift ticket.
Yeah, for sure. 18 holes, standard rates, $100, $150. If you're like local in Breckenridge, you can do like 9 for like 35 after 5 type stuff, But yeah, it's high rate golfing. You got to be good or know somebody,
So it was an injury that actually had like a positive unintended consequence.
Totally, yeah. And I used to frankly play golf with Frank Wells a lot around here, and I got a buddy Joe Lord, and Frank moved away, so there's no one really even golf with up here anymore. But he was on the golf course every day, So it was like it's just like that was the only reason I go hang out with friends. I'd get good for 1 month, and then winter would hit, and then we'd suck again the next spring,
I always think about it as something to do like when I'm old and the rest of my body doesn't work. But if
true, it's
I have a wrist injury too, so I should go check it out and see what's up. Maybe I can't golf either.
I actually was golfing fine before they fixed it, but it's like snowboarding. When you hit a tree, it doesn't hurt. It's like you get that same feeling when you get a good shot when you land a trick. Kind of, a little less adrenaline, but it's way less consequence.
For sure, man. This has been super, super fun. I'll just ask you if you have any parting words for our audience, and maybe from the point of view of a snowboarder that's listening that wants to have the same goal as you, is to just be able to have a snowboarding career where you snowboard all the time. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, no, I mean, keep your fingers crossed and I hope you get lucky. But just never quitting is definitely a huge thing, because you're going to have a lot of ups and downs, and if you pay attention to the bad times and the good times, or the bad times and let it get to you and quit, then you're going to fail. It's just like I've had so many times where if I thought I quit, it would have been over. And you just can't think about that. And just even as low as you get, just keep going forward, and the high times will come. And as far as if I was to say something to a snowboarder, that's what I'd say. Enjoy the ride, unless you find something more fun. But a lot of my friends that move away, they're like, man, I wish I was still back there doing that. And you're like, yep, I'm still back here, but I'm also living alone with 2 dogs, and there's not many 4-year-olds cruising around town anymore. So whatever, you guys at least have families. I don't know. It's a good time. Parting ways. Happy to be. Powder is the answer in the end, But
yeah, Chad, and I think you're probably the best person for the coaching, mentoring job you're doing, because I think you're the perfect role model for young snowboarders to look up to. You've had a lifelong career in it. For the 20 couple years I've known you, you've always been a really humble dude, down to earth, very modest in your riding when you're one of the top riders in the world, and still to this day can probably hold that title easily. So I think you're doing a great job of what you're doing. I think you're doing a great service to snowboarding by keeping true to it. So man, cheers, keep it up. And any young kids out there listening to this that might want to get involved in Chad's program, look him up, get involved. There's no better person to learn from.
Wow, thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I'll keep trying.
And hey, when you come out to Springs this year for this free flow tour, you gotta hit up me and Nate, and we'll come out and we'll take some laps.
Yeah, no, for sure. I want to. The only thing is, I gotta get. All my kids graduated. So I don't have a job next year. But
you can come out and coach us.
Yeah, coach us.
I gotta. That's why I've been pushing hard on photography, because I'm like, damn, I figure out what to do with my life. I've been thinking about moving out of my house and living in my van all next winter because that'd pay my bills. You know,
I'm sure Springs will have some good events coming up, and I know the guys there really well. I shoot photos for them on the side too, just kind of help them out. And if there's ever anything that you're interested in shooting out there, and I'm sure you know people to get in touch with, but if not, feel free to hit us up too, man.
No, yeah, I definitely will, 100% if I come back out there. I'd love to. I like coming there just for the experience.
Yeah.
You know? You never know how it's going to be, so it's going to be...
and this past season you were out there was probably the worst season we've had in a decade, so...
Chad, this has been so fun, man. I thank you so much, and I definitely...
Well, thanks, guys.
I echo Paul's comments 100%, man. You're an amazing ambassador for snowboarding, and I thank you for that.
Thank you. I appreciate what you guys do.
Dude, it was good talking to you, Chad. It's been forever, and it's good to reconnect with you. And I might see you out in Colorado this winter sometime.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be lurking. Hit me up.
Cool, will do.
Oh yeah, Chad. This was rad. Thank you.
Quick housekeeping note. Some of you have mentioned that the Skype glitches have been frustrating on recent episodes, and we totally concur. We're taking every measure possible to make sure that everyone has a strong connection, and we're also experimenting with FaceTime audio as a possible option. There's a couple of Skype glitches in upcoming episodes in the future, just as an FYI. I would even go as far to say that if there's a Skype god, that we clearly were not on his or her side. Anyways, we'll make the best of it, and we're trying to improve, and if at all possible, totally eliminate the issue. Again, to quote Chad, until next week, powder is the answer in the end. Peace.